folks, it's me Rena from Snareworks Crochet, and in today's video I'm going to be making amigurumi. Now, for some of you, this might be the very first video you see from me, and I think in the title I called it Amigurumi Hater Makes Amigurumi. I hope it's kind of obvious that I don't make amigurumi. I kind of dislike making it. However, I have some plush yarn that has been sitting in my stash for a while. Specifically this plush yarn. This is all Big Twist Posh. And obviously with Joann's no longer existing, I don't know if I can buy this anymore. I think Hirschner's might have Posh skein somewhere out there, but I'm gonna be honest, I have zero intention of buying more, but I don't quite want to get rid of it yet, you know? Now, to give you some background into why I have it, I think at one point I really liked making cat loafs, and so I made like 2 cat loafs, and I was thinking, oh, I want to make different variations of different colors, which is why I bought all of those neutral colors of yarn. But as my desire to make cat loafs has died, so has my need for any posh yarn or polyfill or any amigurumi related materials. So I still have this yarn, and I actually have way too much polyfill that has been sitting in my closet, as well as pillow stuffing. So the couch I have in my living room right now was free from a former coworker. He gave me the couch and the pillows, and I found out that the pillows are just like pillows. There's no like pillow insert inside of it, which kind of freaked me out. So I bought pillow inserts and then took out the stuffing. So I have a bunch of pillow stuffing as well. And I did that because I was thinking, oh, I could probably make some amigurumi with it. You know, me who does not make amigurumi. I need to figure out what kind of amigurumi to make. Specifically amigurumi that uses neutral colors, because a lot of the cute amigurumi is very colorful, and I don't have colorful yarn. I have velvet yarn, which I could also pull out too, but I kind of wanted to use the Big Twist Posh first before I pulled out any velvet yarn. Now, I will say one benefit of amigurumi is that you need more stuffing than you think, which is a good thing because I have a lot of it. Now, the main issue is that I don't really make amigurumi, and I don't want to buy more yarn, and I don't really know what to make because I don't really like making amigurumi, plain and simple. Now, let me go into some of the reasons why I don't like making amigurumi to kind of illustrate for you my thought process of why I'm doing this in the first place. First off, I hate bulky yarn. As I've discovered about myself over the years of crocheting, like 3 years of crocheting, I have discovered that I like to use thinner yarn. It mainly aligns with what I like to make in the first place because I like making wearables and granny squares, mostly granny squares, but I like making wearables. I like the drape and the feel. I even just prefer working with thinner yarn. And I think because I use pencil grip, I think pencil grip tends to lend itself better with using thinner yarn as well, versus knife grip, which I think tends to lend itself better to using chunkier yarn. Now, this isn't necessarily like a tell-all thing, but I find the people who tend to like making amigurumi being knife grip holders. That doesn't necessarily translate itself to like wearables per se, but it does lend itself to amigurumi because amigurumi, you're using thicker yarn, and I feel like when I have used thicker yarn in the past, it is a lot easier to just dig into your stitches with knife grip. But yes, that is reason number 1 of why I don't like making amigurumi. Reason number 2, I don't like counting. And amigurumi requires a lot of counting. So a lot of amigurumi patterns online that I've seen, especially the really cute ones, are just single crochet circles that just grow out. That's it. And I hate making crochet circles because I hate counting. It's such a character flaw of mine, I know, but I just genuinely hate counting. And especially because in order for like the transitions to be smooth, you're basically doing a spiral, and you have to like keep marking your stitches as to like where that spiral starts and stops, and like then you also have to count rows too, and that's too much for me. I don't have the patience for that. So therefore, that's another reason why I don't like making amigurumi. And I guess like going back to my first reason, the yarn that makes amigurumi kind of cute and easy is like the chunky yarn, which I hate working with because I can't see my stitches. And then the third reason, which is kind of like less of a reason, is that I'm not good at making it. And that's probably due to a practice thing. But every time I make amigurumi, specifically the sewing amigurumi patterns, mainly because I'm really bad at sewing, they just look so bad every time I make it. The crocheting part I find very easy, but once I get to the sewing portion of making amigurumi, it just ruins it for me. And I'm like, oh, this kind of sucks. The hard part is always the sewing and putting together pieces. That's where it takes like skill, like actual skill to do, and I don't have that skill. And I haven't practiced that skill, and I frankly don't like making plushies enough to practice that skill. And I'm gonna be honest, it kind of helps that I don't have plushies overflowing in my room. Now, those are the reasons why I don't like making amigurumi, but as kind of a stash busting thing, I kind of want to make amigurumi. I also want to take a break from some of my current projects. That's why we're here today. I have taken a look online as to like what projects I could make. I might make either like 2 or 3 plushies throughout the course of this video, just because I don't anticipate making a giant project and I have like 5 skeins of plush yarn. I don't even think I'll even use up all the plush yarn. Who knows what's going to happen at this point, but the first pattern I want to try making is this free penguin pattern. And the reason I want to make this penguin pattern is primarily because when I saw the penguin in the photo, which is using completely different yarn, and I know what I make is not going to look the same as this penguin, but I immediately thought of a J-Rock song that came up into my algorithm years ago and still cracks me up to this day, called Futon no naka kara detaku nai, or I Don't Want to Get Out of the Futon by Gokumon. And in the video, there is this penguin character, just lying in his little futon sleeping. And it's a very cute little like penguin. And when I saw this penguin pattern, it immediately reminded me of that. And that like little music video called I Don't Want to Get Out of the Futon, the first time I saw it, it cracked me up. Every time I listen to it, it just cracks me up every single time. It is so funny. In fact, I don't know if I can play a clip of it or not. I don't know how good my editing skills are, but the penguin waking up and facing the cold weather, it's that part specifically that just cracks me up. That's all I'm gonna say. If you do find yourself interested in what I'm talking about, look up I Don't Want to Get Out of the Futon by Gokumon, and I highly encourage you to watch the music video with English subtitles, because otherwise it won't really make sense. Yes, that is the first pattern I want to make. I guess let's make a penguin. Okay, so I'm working this right. There's 2 things I'm noticing. 1, I'm using a 5mm hook because that's what I used the last time I used this yarn, however long ago I did this. I'm not doing the yarn under thing because, frankly, my tension's tight enough that I don't really think I need to do it. But here's a very interesting thing about this pattern that I'm noticing. Normally, when they have you do increases in the round, they do like, it's a factor of like 6 or something like that. You basically, it's kind of like you do a single crochet and then you do 2 increases and then like single crochet, 2 increases. This has you doing like triple increases, so it's kind of increasing like a triangle. I can't tell if that's intentional or not at this point. It's also pointy, and I don't know if I need to go back and get a bigger hook or if I just have to deal with this. I don't know if this is by design or if it matters, because I do know at some point I'm gonna have to sew on a head. And then if this is the top of the body, I can just, plop my head on top and hide the point and everything's fine. So I kind of don't want to go back, so I might just live with my choices. I know that if it's pointy like this, you're supposed to you know, undo it and get a new hook, but I don't want to do that. But the most interesting thing about this particular pattern is the way it has you increase, because it has you doing single crochets, and then in each of the increase stitches you're doing 3 single crochets instead of 2 like you normally would, which I found interesting. It's looking more like a triangle. Again, I can't tell if this is intentional or not because the photos don't really show you a good reference of what it's supposed to look like. I don't know. I'm still gonna follow it to the best of my ability, but this is my progress so far, but it's a plushie. I don't know what to say.
They end up leaving. That Afro man was like watching the thing. He was watching the whole time. Doesn't know what's going on. Doesn't know there's even an investigation into it. Because once again, he's not being charged with anything. They don't find anything. They don't even find any narcotics. Which for an artist who's known for a song, because I got high, it's almost a little disappointing. It's like, all right.
Okay, so I have finished the body of my penguin, and I realized that this is actually supposed to be the bottom, which is a problem because the pointy cone thing. I don't want to redo this because that sounds awful. So I'm gonna see if I can get away with just stuffing it, and maybe that will potentially flatten it out. We'll see. Okay, so I did stuff the body. Unfortunately, the pointy end was still too pointy, so I went in and just sewed up the point to make it more flat. So now it looks good. But yeah, here is the stuffed body. I have tight tension, so this is definitely turning out smaller than probably intended, because I think the original creator had this at like 10 inches, and I'm like, this is definitely not 10 inches. Here's the head that I crocheted up yesterday. It's a little wonky because it's worked in continuous rounds. Originally, I carried the yarn, which is why you see some of the gray poking out, but then I decided to kind of switch to floats last minute. But yeah, there is the head done. And then I have also created one flipper and the beak. I need to create the other flipper, the face, and also the little wings. I will say this does feel significantly lighter because this is like a brand new skein. This does feel significantly lighter than like this one, which I couldn't get the center pull, so I had to pull from the outside. I don't know, is it me or does Amigurumi not actually use that much yarn? I have like 5 basically full skeins of Big Twist Posh, right? This is not like a small skein. I'm not using Bernat Blanket because screw that. I always thought Amigurumi used more yarn, or it seemingly used more yarn because the skeins are physically smaller. There's less yardage of yarn than like a standard skein. But a lot of Amigurumi skeins go off of weight. It feels expensive. Like 100 grams of Amigurumi yarn versus like 100 grams of worsted weight yarn. You get less physical yarn. It feels like you're throwing away your money when you buy these skeins of plush yarn. But then when you actually make the Amigurumi, like, I would expect it to use more yarn because you still are crocheting, and crochet does use more yarn than knitting. And because it's such chunky yarn, you'd think that like it would just, because it crochets up so quickly, you'd think you would be using so much yarn, but I'm kind of realizing you really don't actually use that much yarn in making Amigurumi. Is this why all the Amigurumi creators have like a ton of plushies and a ton of yarn that never seems to go away? Because I kind of see why. I always thought making Amigurumi seemed more expensive, but like I guess it kind of just equals out, honestly. I mean, to be fair, yarn hoarding is expensive, but that's a different story. Maybe this is me being judgy. Like, I felt like Amigurumi creators just happen to have a ton of yarn that never seems to go away. But like, it probably is the fact that like, they're buying one skein, and depending on how much they're making, it really just doesn't go away, even when they are actively making projects. I have to say, I have rethought my perspective on not necessarily like making Amigurumi, but more so like, I just didn't realize how little yarn Amigurumi actually uses, all things considered. even when you're making those giant chunky plushies. Oh, the struggle, but look at that. Look how cute this is. Also, the back is weird, and I don't know why they did it like this. I thought this was supposed to be a face. It is not, but I mean, face is cute for now. One thing I will say that I do like about amigurumi, I don't really have to weave in my ends. I can just hide my ends inside of the piece, and then no one will know any different, which is kind of great. It's supposed to be like this, right? So I guess I kind of get it. I finished my penguin. It's not bad. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Everything is super wonky and like uneven, but like it's not bad per se. All things considered, I did an okay job at sewing it, which was a total pain. I think the only thing I don't like is how I'm like super off with like the back. But otherwise, it's a penguin. It looks like a penguin. It might be a little wonky, but it's not bad. I'm kind of glad I'm done with it though. But it did use up a decent amount of my gray yarn, which is good because I needed to use up yarn. It didn't use nearly as much polyfill as I was hoping because I still have this much left. And the thing is that I'm realizing I basically need to make giant plushies in order to use up the amount of polyfill that I want to use up. But I don't have the patience to make a giant plushie again. This is probably the biggest plushie I've ever made. Plain and simple. And even then, it's not using up nearly as much polyfill or stuffing. But now I need to figure out what to make next. And the thing is that I have a couple of ideas. I was thinking maybe I could make some cows. I think a cow would be really cute. I think actually I want to find a couple of no-sew patterns because the amount of sewing I had to do on that penguin was too much for my liking. I want to see if I can find a no-sew cow because this was a lot. Okay, I will say the one thing I am actually proud of is the eye placement. I've always been bad at eye placement. This is not bad. I'm gonna find a no-sew cow pattern so I can probably use up some of my other yarns. I might look for a bunny pattern too because bunnies are neutral colors. Maybe I'll do a cat loaf again because I actually already have that cat loaf pattern on my computer. But yeah, we'll see how many more I make in this video because this didn't take me that long, all things considered, but it was a pain and I don't want to do it again. I should probably add that to another reason of why I don't like making amigurumi because I make one and then I'm done with it. I don't want to make another one, which for some that might be the point, but I don't know. It's tricky. So, fun fact, I tried to find a cow pattern, but all the cow patterns I liked involved sewing, and I was just not in the mood to do that. And all the no-sew patterns were ugly. So I decided to kind of go on a hunt for another no-sew pattern. And then I remembered I was subscribed to Complicated Knots. And I have made her patterns before. I actually made a rainbow dart frog for my brother-in-law when I first started crocheting, and it's great. I love the pattern. It's a fantastic pattern. And I decided to look through her channel and see if she had any no-sew patterns, and she had a no-sew raccoon. She had both a small one and a large one. I didn't know if I was mentally ready to do a large pattern, but I decided to do the small one. And she uses tiny, tiny yarn. And I think my raccoon's a little bigger, but look at this. This is so cute. And then I happened to have safety eyes, and I had this like safety nose, actually. It's a little crooked, but honestly, like all amigurumi is kind of crooked anyway, which is also why I don't like making amigurumi, because nothing feels symmetrical. You know, reason like 591, right? But yeah, I've been working this up. I am choosing to follow the tutorial video, and I normally don't like to do that just because I like being able to kind of read it and not be dependent on a video, but it's free and I didn't really want to invest money into this video. I will say, this is very cute. I definitely stuffed his head quite a bit, but it's so cute. And actually, this is the first time I was able to use the safety nose in the Amigurumi eye kit that I got however long ago that was. Okay, so I finished my no-so raccoon. It is very cute. It also is a very well-designed pattern, and I'm very impressed by Complicated Knot's ability to do this, even though I'm not surprised either that this is a Complicated Knots pattern. It is able to like kind of stand on its own, which is kind of nice. But here's the thing, I still have a lot of yarn, and I don't think I'll be able to use all of it in one video, so I'm probably just gonna end my video here. I made 2 things of amigurumi, this raccoon and a penguin. I guess for lack of better words, I think like I'm a little bit creatively bankrupt of what I can do with the colors I have. It's kind of hard for me to find like amigurumi patterns that I want to make that are in neutral colors. So for now, I'm just going to end the video here, and let me know down in the comments, what are some animals or other amigurumi designs that you have made with neutral color specifically. I am curious just because I have no idea what else to make. The popular patterns are like dragons and stuff, but I might make another one of these videos to use up more of my yarn. But for now, I'm done making amigurumi. I think this was a good video, and I was definitely able to use up a decent amount of yarn. Obviously not all of it, but I used a good chunk of it, especially this brown color and that gray color that was in the penguin. Again, let me know down in the comments, what amigurumi patterns have you made that are a neutral color palette? And with that, I will see you in the next video. Bye!